Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Lewis's vlog. And we started the week off with looks like a medium grip bench press there. A little grindy, but he got it, and it was a small PR. But a PR is a PR, so we'll take it. And for those who missed part one, if you don't know his backstory, go watch it. We're in a rebuilding phase. He got very sick and got injured, required surgery. Has pins and stuff in his wrist, and then developed quite a serious medical condition afterwards, and then came back to me as a former novice client and hard gainer, and we've started rebuilding him. So that's just the cliff notes of it. And I have him on conjugate right now, and again, he's working on getting better equipment at home. He's going to get a full rack coming up here soon, but in the meantime, we're working with this limited equipment, which is okay with the weight we're using. All right, so for max effort bench press day afterwards, we do some pause benching. We do chin-ups, JM presses, rows, and lateral raises. And, I could condense some of this down, to be honest. The only difference is that he's a novice and not super strong yet. He's a late novice right now. So he's able to handle a relatively large amount of workload. Plus he's bulking. I have him eating and gaining weight, at least a small amount of weight every single week. He doesn't have to have a really busy lifestyle, so we can get away with a little more volume, particularly at his age. So I want this to be clear. I'm not going to have most of my lifters do 6 supplemental exercises like this. I'm not going to have most do this, right, on these days. So just keep that in mind. So we need context for that. Again, he's in a slightly different situation. And you'll see some of my advanced people who do a lot and then others who don't do a lot. And quite frankly, for me these days, I'm probably doing a little less, maybe about the same. I have some smaller movements in there, though, than he does. I'm not doing as many big multi-joint movements on upper days. It tends to be smaller movements to finish off. For max effort lower day, we did sumo deadlifts, which he is weaker at than on his conventional, but we do them anyways in the rotation, particularly due to limited equipment. We do what we can on conjugate. And he got 155 kg, which is significantly less than he pulls conventional. And, a few of my conjugate guys have asked me about that. They're like, well, I can't always PR every single workout. And I'm like, well, we have limited equipment. The conjugate system, the idea behind hitting a PR every single time is that you have enough equipment, bars, bands, chains, setups so that you can space it out to make sure that you PR every time. Now, some people will say, well, what do you mean? Is that cheating in that regard? Well, no, it's psychological programming. There are benefits to that. Over to his other supplemental work, though. Afterwards, we do good mornings. We do glute bridges. I'm a little unhappy with his range of motion. We've talked a little bit back and forth. I'm having him try to adjust hand positions, adjust weight, things like that. But that's the downside with some of this. Form coaching is not always easy long distance. We make it work, but it's adjusted week to week. It's not like you can be there in person to do that. And that is probably the only downside to distance coaching. It's dramatically cheaper. For the same services, like if someone asked me what would I charge in person to coach someone, depending on how it affects my schedule, $150 to $200 an hour. Okay, and I'm quite serious when I say that. That's how I value my time. So that's the difference. And people will say that's crazy. Yeah, but a lot of y'all are paying $100 for much less experienced coaches and trainers all the time. That's normal per session. So again, people save a lot of money doing the distance coaching, but what's the downside? I can't correct the form real time every single workout. We can't get everything perfect the way that we want it, but it's also affordable this way. So, that's kind of the balance with this when we're dealing with distance coaching. So over to dynamic effort day, we do speed bench. We do 3 sets wide, 3 sets medium, 3 sets close. Then he does sets of 10 on incline benching. All right, we do incline benching here. Again, for extra chest development, upper chest, front delt. And there's a little bit of shoulder dominance in his training. People will notice that. We do some incline work. We do laterals. So the question becomes why. He's a younger guy who cares about eventually having a certain look, and delts are what do that. Delts are what do that. And anyone who's really researched it and understands those things, they're always thinking, well, if there's people want a certain aesthetic look, if people like to throw that word out, it's really all about your delts and your body fat. It really is, and I'm not talking about at the competitive level, or not talking about physique competition. I'm just talking in general. Most of the people see who think that they have, kind of that aesthetic type physique that people use the words, they're usually lean and they have a lot of shoulder development. That pretty much sums it up within the context of their genetics. All right, for other lifts for Lewis, we do chin-ups, we do JM presses, we do rows, we do lateral raises. Again, a lot of shoulder work involved here, particularly on this day because we have incline benching, right, which hits the front delts very hard, rows, which hits the rear delts. Both of them work the side head of the delt a little. And then we do laterals. This is one kind of fluff exercise, right, the one fluff exercise. And of course, he's asked me about things like biceps, and I'm like, well, you're doing rows and chins, and you're not a really advanced lifter. You're not going to get much out of adding extra work. There's a point where that can occur, but keeping in mind, we're just trying to get him really big and really strong right now, and I'm not worried about some of those smaller details, but I give him the delt stuff. And of course, we do train triceps because we're training for strength. Okay, dynamic effort lower days where we finish up the week. We do speed box squats. We're doing speed sumo pulls for this phase, and we rotate these around. Then we do good mornings. We do split squats, and we do glute bridges. And for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to include all of that in here. I don't like these videos running to past the 10-minute mark. So I clipped a little bit of that out because you guys saw it earlier in the week, but here he is finishing up the good mornings, and then you'll see the glute bridges at the end. So I hope it has been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.